Here I am with Fiona Hardy, lead singer with Slalom D and artist. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Just getting ready for leaving for rebellion, so a bit hectic in the middle of dyeing my hair. So the joys of being a punk rocker.
So your surname is Hardy.
It was. My surname now is Duncan.
Okay, but it's a Hardy that I'm going to ask the question about.
Okay, that's fine.
Are you related in any way to Kiss Me Hardy from Nelson's day?
No,
Right.
no, it was by marriage.
Okay.
Well, as far as I know, no.
Right.
It could be. I'll have to look into it.
Because there's a Hardy on my granddad's side who were from Sunderland way,
Oh,
and
right.
the folklore down the line was that we were related to Hardy in the Kiss Me Hardy's scene. So it's
There is a lot of folklore coming from Sunderland about different things.
yeah. So you kind of like whatever my granddad said, we always took with a pinch of salt. But you never know. Yeah. So you were born in Sunderland.
Yeah. Sunderland born and bred.
And you when did you first realise that music was important for you?
Oh, at school.
Yeah.
I was a teenager through the 80s, and it gets a lot of stick. It's kind of the decade the taste forgotten. And that was a brilliant time to be a teenager, music-wise. And it was that decade of kind of tribes as well.
Yeah.
Where it became really defined. There were people at school who were into heavy metal, there were people who were into punk, there were people who were into new romantics, and everybody had their own. It became very obvious that you could define yourself purely by the records that you bought.
Yeah.
And that really grabbed us. There's a few people that I've met recently that haven't seen me since school, and they're like, wow, I can't believe you're in a band or you've changed. But I was always like that. I just didn't have, I was very quiet.
Yeah.
Hadn't found my voice, and I think that's what music gave us. It gave us an identity. It gave us a chance to say things that I couldn't do without it. So massively important.
So which was the first record you bought then?
Oh, it was probably Complete Madness. I got some birthday money, and that was the first album anyway, because that was really popular at the time. That was kind of, and it was only popular with the lads, and I always kind of sort of, I think I bought some Duran Duran as well. But the first single was probably the Wombles or something like that. You know how everybody goes, oh, my first single was, Damned New Rose, the very first break. Nah, most people were like buying, or possibly The Sweet, because I had a big thing. Still have a big thing for The Sweet.
See, my first record was Blondie Denis.
See, that's very cool.
But at the same time, I also bought the Scottish World Cup song and Father Smurf or Father Abraham. So I kind of like I lose a bit of credibility when I get down to the third one. You know what I mean? But actually, honestly, I think I was 10 at the time.
Yeah.
So, when did you first become aware of punk?
I left school. Well, I was aware of punk at school because sort of when I was in the first year, second year, all the lads in the fifth year were punks.
Yeah.
But obviously we, didn't have anything to do with it. They were grown-ups at that time, I mean, 15-year-olds at our school had beards and more age, and then they all left. And that was kind of the end of it. I would see people about in the streets, but and we had punk bands that came from our school, so I was aware of them, but it was kind of on my peripheral vision. And then I went to art college. And when I was 16, because I didn't know what else to do, and art was the only thing, you know, it was like that in the end. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'll join. And there were all these amazing people with dyed hair and who were listening to the Cramps and, you know, all this stuff that I'd never heard of before. And it was the era of mixtapes. So, and then the Damned were on top of the Pops.
Yeah.
And that kind of sealed the deal. So I found a lot of the music that I love now, retrospectively, they're kind of gone.
Yeah.
You know? And there was a lot of other stuff around then, you know, there was a lot of cock rock and a lot of the punk bands had stopped touring. So you kind of just listened to whatever was out there and went to gigs, whatever gigs you could.
Yeah.
You know? And then I think sort of in my 20s it became a sealed deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you remember the first band you went to see?
The Damned. Was the Damned.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 80s.
In Sunderland or Newcastle?
London.
London, okay.
And it was that was an eye-opener.
Yeah.
They played because I didn't know that much about them at the time. And we didn't have the internet, so you couldn't look things up. And they played the intro to Smash It Up, which I hadn't heard. And me and my friend thought it was the interval. you know when you got like a little musical intro when you went to pictures.
What's happening here?
And then Dave Vinny came back on and said, "Smash It Up," and the whole place just went, yeah. So yeah, that was a bit of an introduction.
Yeah,
but it was good. Yeah, never look back. There's still in me. I have the Holy Trinity of the Damned, New Model Army, and Killing Joke, and they're still up there.
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's kind of like that because the Northeast, particularly Sunderland, County Durham, and Scotland. Because I grew up in Scotland, so I kind of like I knew what was still happening when I moved away, and what still does happen. Seems to be the two cornerstones of punk and punk bands in the UK. You know, why do you think Sunderland, County Durham, kind of like kept a tradition, still keeps a tradition of young or upcoming bands, new bands, punk bands?
I can only speculate, but from my point of view, we had a lot of people who were creatives. We still have a lot of people who were creatives. But in the 70s and the 80s, it wasn't the done thing for young men to be writing poetry or singing but you could if it was set to a punk soundtrack. It still had that macho, do you know what I mean? Yeah. It had that aggressiveness. And I think it appealed to us as underdogs, you know. I think when it was in London, and again, this is just purely my point of view, it was an art school scene, and it was working class. But once it got up here, the working class really did get hold of it and go, we can do this, you know. We can wear outrageous clothes, and we can do things with our hair, but it still has that layer of. Punk gives you a kind of protection.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah.
The lads could still do it and not be called out for it. They could be. And I think that's still. We've got a lot to say, and we don't feel like anybody's listening. I think that's the gist of it.
So it's to give yourself a voice.
I think so, yeah. Yeah. And I think it was one of the only means that was open, especially to kids like I grew up with and I was, because it was that idea of you don't have to be perfect musicians, you don't have to be a brilliant songwriter, although as it turns out a lot of people were. You can just do it and get on with it. Nobody else was saying that to us, you know? Sorry, just this is my partner and he's helping us.
How many more batches do you want to put on there?
Loads more, thank you. He's helping us make artwork for Rebellion. So he's gluing bits and pieces together for us. So.
Where do you want them round the show?
Yes, thank you.
Anyway.
But yeah, I think it was. There wasn't anything, especially in the 80s when I left school. You know, I think I had one careers interview, and it was basically, what factory do you want to go and work? And it was, what factory? There was, go to college and do something. You know, there wasn't any encouragement or any. Yeah, we never got there. Well, you can do what you want. It was just, there's a couple of avenues open. So I think as soon as bands like Red Alert and people like that saw that there was a chance they could do something, they were going. And I don't think that's ever really left us. So
yeah.
So
it's kind of like I saw you sing at the Menzies Memorial gig.
Yeah.
When did you become friends with Tommy, with Menzie? What?
Yeah, that still seems really surreal and a bit kind of, you know, I still kind of sort of spoke to Neil about it, Neil Newt, and was just like, why did you ask us? Yeah, we were friends. We weren't close friends, but we knew each other a long time. It was one of those where we saw each other at gigs. But when I joined Slalom D, the band put a message out on Facebook saying, "This is our new singer. Somebody who's never sang before, never wrote a song before, can't play it, but this, you know," which was bizarre as well. And he just put "welcome" under it, which is, do you know what I mean? For somebody who listens to rock and roll, that's like Elvis messaging them, you know. It was a big deal, and it is still a big deal. And I was surprised to be asked, but it was one of those things where I was like, well, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it justice. But you can't say no to something like that.
Yeah.
You know? It was terrifying, but it was, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing night for him, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty special show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And I'm massively honoured to be part of it. Especially that song as well, you know?
When he interviewed Neil, I did get a bit stuck in my throat because kind of like where we are at this moment in time, I made the point, it's really where the communities need leaders like Menzie. You know, and he's kind of like, it's very much over the, you know, since he passed in December, that there's a missing void of a vocal piece and a man that was had great integrity.
Just having known that support was there, you know, you didn't have to see him all the time. We weren't in constant contact, but just knowing, you know, being a big believer in the left wing and you know, you just see all this stuff on Facebook and on the news, and you feel like a lone voice sometimes. Yeah. And then you see him pop up, and you go, "No, I'm on the right track. No, this is." And we used to say that about upstart gigs. Yeah. It was like recharging those batteries.
Yeah.
Because you were in a room full of people that thought like you.
Yeah.
And he thought like us, and it really, it was a good feeling. And that is, it'll come again and there'll be other people, but not in the same way. He's massively missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I first saw them in 1980 and then spent a couple of years around them. And I kind of, I when I saw the band with Tommy the last time at the second Pipeline gig, he looked a lot more relaxed than he was in the early 80s, where he was always looks a bit suspicious of people, and kind of like, you know, he was always aware that things could happen at any one time, you know, but I could see that the band were really tight, and I could see he was just content with being on stage.
I mean, the times we saw him at Rebellion, and I can't remember what year the first one was, but he posted on Facebook, and you know, it's kind of, he's weathering the storm. I don't think he gave the illusion that he wasn't sure what kind of reception he was going to get.
Yeah.
And you could just see him on, like, and obviously they went down storm, you know. And I think that was his post afterwards was, you know, I stormed the weather. And it was, yeah. I mean, there was never any doubt for us, but you got the impression that he wasn't sure. And I think once that gig went well, you know. But it is that I've talked to Neil about it, and I'm getting a fraction of it because obviously nobody's heard of us. But if you set your stall out to have a specific political lean to it, then, you know, some people are going to flock to you and some people are going to flock to you for all the wrong reasons, you know. But he never wavered in that. And I always found that amazing. And something I would try to emulate, but not entirely sure I'm brave enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was always kind of like, for the first times I was around him, he would hardly say anything. And then I think it was before a gig in Manchester, at the sound check, he was like, so what's your politics then? And I answered him, and my politics is still the same today as they were back then, you know, probably more militant than it was back then, you know. But as soon as after that, he was a lot more relaxed with me, you know, and he'd open up and talk, you know.
Well, it was a real danger up here. You know, I mean, I remember getting a bottle thrown at us in the street, and I wasn't a kid, I was like 16, 17, because somebody had seen us in a pub, and I had, you know, like a Right Against Racism badge on my jacket. And I wasn't particularly militant, I just knew people who were into that. And there was a big divide, some of which still lasts to this day. And yeah, people got hurt and gigs got attacked. So it was a real, and it's a lot better for the most part, but there are times where you're at gigs now and that kind of memory stays with you and you sort of go, you know, my partner will go, let's move back because I don't want these behind us. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time it's paranoia, some of the time it's not. And yeah, so I totally get why you would be like that.
Yeah.
It's still a bit like that.
Yeah.
You know, somebody messages you and you want to check out why that. Yeah.
So you're going to sing with the Rebellion one song? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. First time at Rebellion singing, and yeah, with my band, with our band, and then with the Upstart. So I'm trying not to think about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be. And at the end of the day, I'm the least important person there to know about me.
No.
But there's a serious one. Don't want to let the lads down.
Yeah.
Don't want to let him down. And it'll be fine. But
yeah.
And just doing that song because Tony was a good friend of mine as well, you know. So there's a lot of emotions wrapped up in all those songs, you know. There was a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
And it brings them all to mind, so yeah.
And it's such a powerful song as well.
Yeah, it's an amazing song.
Yeah.
The lyrics are fantastic. It's just everything about it.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
Yeah. I mean,
it was always a statement when they played it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what people don't kind of like sometimes stray away with the Upstarts is that Menzies tried so many different avenues rather than just do 1, 2, 3, 4 and off you go.
Yeah.
You know, the variety of the songs are fantastic.
Totally. And when you're actually trying to learn, because there was a few different options, so I learned a few songs, and they're all, and I mean, I've said from the start. I'm not a musician or anything, but I'm picking things up and I'm writing my own lyrics and going, this isn't just this isn't just, he didn't find something that worked and just stuck with it.
Yeah.
The nuances in all these songs.
Yeah.
And when you sing along, you're in the audience, you go, yeah, it's pretty basic. And then you get into it and it's like, no, there's a lot more going on with it. And I appreciate that a lot more now. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
So Rebellion, you as an artist, you sell your art at Rebellion.
Yeah.
How does that work? When did you start selling?
I went down. The first time I went to Rebellion was in 2006, and it was I was going with my friends who were Holy Racket at the time. One of them needed a lift, and then he said, "Can you give two guys that I know a lift?" And it turned out to be Decker Wade and Neil Newton out the upstarts. So I was like, "Yeah, no problem." That was a very interesting journey. I'll never drive them again. But yeah, got Rebellion. It was a lot smaller then, but you just sort of went, this is, the next level of what the scene's going on with. And I know a lot of people go, it's expensive or what. They'll always have its detractors. But I just think it's done so much good. And there was an art stall, so the next year I got invited. So yeah, I've been doing it for however many years. And it's brilliant. It's just, have you been to Rebellion?
I haven't been to Rebellion. I'm kind of like I've been tempted so many times, but it's to go fully back in is been a tough decision.
Yeah, it's very intense. But everything's under one roof in the Winter Gardens, so they use the different venues. So there's 7 stages, but one room is always designated basically an art space.
Right.
So there's between about 30 and 40 different artists, but they're all people who are involved in punk. There isn't a commercial. Well, some people are commercial, but they're still punks. So it's a really good. It helped me launch my little business. It's a really supportive way, and they really encourage it. So it's a good add-on to the festival. Well, it's part of the festival now. It's not an add-on anymore.
Yeah. So how else do you sell your art?
With great difficulty. It's kind of one of those things. I work part-time, 2 jobs, so full-time.
Yeah.
And it's every now and again you go, I want to drop some hours and concentrate on my art. But if it doesn't create a regular income, so it's kind of one of those things that I do when I can. Yeah. And it's through Instagram and it's through Facebook and it's through word of mouth. And it's just, it is what it is. Hopefully, at some point, I'll be able to do it full time, but COVID keeps hitting and cost of living crisis and all those big things that affect everybody. But it's the worst. Being a musician and being an artist, 2 ways not to make money.
Yeah. So Slalom D formed when you weren't an original member.
No.
You said previously that you'd never sang before. So how did that step up to put yourself forward to? Was it Craig, the original singer?
Yeah, Craig passed away. Very, very suddenly, massive shock to everybody. And Slalom D were already booked to play our local pub, the Ivy, which is kind of real community hub. Everybody meets there, and any day you go in, there'll be somebody out of some band in Sunderland in there. And we just all got talking about how the gig should still go ahead. You know, Craig had lots of friends, lots of people who were really supportive of Slalom D. So we I think they had 12 songs. We sort of right, 6 of his friends will do 2 songs each. And again, it was one of those things where it was like, will you do it? And it was like, I have no idea whether I can do it. But now I've been asked, I'd be an idiot to say no. So we had a couple of practices. The gig went ahead. It was amazing. We raised 400 odd quid for a local community radio station. And at the end of the night, one of the lads went, well, that's it, you know. And I took that to be, that's the end of the band. And got a text the next morning going, can we come and talk to you? And me being me, because I got a bit drunk on the night, was like, oh, what did I do? Why do they want to talk to us? What am I going to get wrong for? Shit. Expecting the worst. And they just said, would we want to continue? And basically there's no plan B. So I was like, right, okay, that's... And really agonised about it because it was like, I've never done this. I've been told all my life, you know, when you're singing along with something and people go, do you want to stop doing that? I was totally under the illusion that I couldn't sing. It's possibly still true. But just thought, if I say no, that I will regret this for the rest of my life. And also, they were so good that, you know, I didn't want that to be the end of. They had some amazing songs, absolutely amazing songs. And they were kind of a new favourite band. So it was, yeah. It was the worst, you know, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out. And they tell us they made a mistake. And I tried. We're still here.
But that's all you can do in life is give something a go. And, you know, if it works out, and it's fantastic. If it doesn't, at least you've given it a try.
Totally, but with something like this, it feels very... You're exposing yourself completely.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, I had to learn really quickly that people putting comments on YouTube going, the thing is shit, was just like, do you know what, yeah. But when you're not used to that, you kind of go, oh, who's this person? I'm going to track them down, you know. And even now, it's still a bit like, oh, somebody will post a video on YouTube and you just think this sounds awful, and you've got to. I still feel like a punter, you know. Well, maybe it's not so much now, but there are still elements of that kind of. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So then when somebody points it out, you go, shit, somebody, you know. And then you realise, oh, actually, they're pointing that out to everybody. So, yeah, it's fine.
So when did you join the band? What year?
Right, 2019, I think, because kind of COVID's... You know, when you've lost that year and you go, how many years ago was it?
Yeah. It's 2020, wasn't it? That's when COVID kind of like really came in.
Yeah, it was 2019 then. And I think we did about 12 gigs, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So I felt like, no, I'm getting used to this. I'm not having massive panic attacks and trying to escape the venue before we go on, and then it all stopped. So it really felt like start from scratch again.
Yeah.
So yeah, not the easiest way to begin a music career, but.
Yeah. But were you still writing during those lockdowns?
Oh, I mean, it really did the band. I think all of us came out with a big PTSD. You know, like the rest of the country. But up until then, every rehearsal had been getting me ready to do a gig. So it was practicing the same songs over and over again. It was trying to get time, make sure I didn't forget things, and you know, and just me practicing doing all that. When we didn't have any gigs coming up, yeah, we wrote an album. So, and I don't think that would have happened as easily or as quickly if we hadn't been just all sitting about. So yeah, it was a good thing. And that's been out nearly a year now. So yeah, it was good.
So is it fair to say you're quite a political band?
Yes. Craig was the driving force of that, with full support of the rest of the band. And I think that is one of the reasons that they asked me, was because I was a good friend of Craig's with that same, I had the same, we went to the same protests and we planned things together, and so yeah. And I not every song, but I try and write more songs from that kind of, from just my experience in the North East, which is most people are all right, you know, and a bit left wing and a bit socialist and a bit, but it doesn't always appear that way when we're represented on media or, you know. But yeah, it was really important to Craig.
Yeah.
And I would say sort of, it's certainly a driving force for me, because I think there are loads, obviously, and there are loads of bands like that, but there seemed to be a period where people didn't really want to nail the flag to any particular mast.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, we just want to have a good time and we don't want to. And I fully support that as well, but there's still room for getting a message out there, I think. All the time, you know. There's too many to mention. It's Load of 44, Hi-Fi Spitfires. There's tons going on. You know, I mean, there's literally gigs every week, which kind of died off. Not so, you know, a couple of years back. Now it's picking up momentum. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
You seem to play quite a lot in the North East, so there seems to be a lot of punk gigs. Adam is always posting links to punk gigs on WhatsApp or, you know, Facebook, and I'm like, okay, there's another gig.
Yeah, we have been sort of advised, you know, if you want to progress in your careers, you need to move out. We're all in our 50s.
Yeah.
You know, we all go to work full time. We all have other things to do and families. We're doing it because we like playing live. So Rebellion is fantastic. We do want to. We've played Edinburgh a couple of times. Plan on playing Glasgow, and we were going to play Morecambe, unfortunately that's been cancelled. So it's not that we're adverse, or, you know, we want to be big fish in a little pond and stay. It's just at the minute we haven't got it costs a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're of an age where we're like, can you do this gig? Well, no, I've got this, I've got that. Oh, what time do you finish work? Or, you know, there's other responsibilities. But we love doing it. So, but yeah, you will always see there's just loads of benefit gigs, which is brilliant to see. But we've got loads of great venues. So, yeah, there's always loads going on.
Punk is, you know, there's a scene in the North East with regards to punk. Which are the bands currently playing that you appreciate?
There's some brilliant stuff coming through. Chaos 8 are fantastic. Becky Strawn's band, Load of 44, and Point Blank. Load of new. I want to sound so patronising, kids, but they're all teenagers and they're doing some fantastic stuff. But we have friends. My partner is involved, and two of my best friends are involved with the Serial Bowl Records, which Dickie Hammond was kind of involved in its formation, and they do a lot of stuff in the museum vaults. So Red London are playing there this afternoon with Il Compresso, I think, because they're going down to Black. I don't think they're playing Rebellion, but they're playing. So there's a huge fringe festival around it now.
Yeah.
So that's on this afternoon. And the Museum Vaults is just one of the best places. Really old-style pub, front bar, a back room that is smaller than most people's sitting rooms. But the bands that they get on, you know, from all over the world, people begging to play this tiny pub because they get looked after. The people who attend are amazing, and Serial Bowl really look after, you know. So that's going to be a corker this afternoon. I think they've rescheduled. I'm just looking at my phone because normally they play their afternoon gigs, but I think it's on later this because of the football. So we're all a bit excited.
So the
But
yeah, sorry.
sorry, I was just going to say, so like Red London, Red Alert, all those bands that, you know, Loudmouth who came along behind them. There's a really healthy scene. Really healthy scene.
So what's in store for Slalom D for the future?
We're working on another album, on that difficult second album. We're about 5 songs into that. And it hasn't been as easy to write because we have gigs now and we're playing a lot. So, but that's playing Rebellion's a huge thing for us. Getting a new album together. We're going to take some time off over Christmas. And then, see what happens next year. So, we're just going to keep on doing what we do. You know, there isn't I think if we were a lot younger, there would be a master plan, but it's kind of, we're really just enjoy playing. It's enough, you know. We do get lots of hints and tips about how to progress, and it's kind of, it feels like what'll happen, will happen. You know what I mean? There's no massive drive to be. You can't be famous and be in a punk band, you know. So just do what we do. Hopefully, people like it.
That's what you just got to do. Just do what you do and keep your integrity, and you know, enjoy what you do.
Yeah, definitely. And we do. I mean, I've got nothing to compare it to because I haven't been in any of the bands. But I don't want to do this with any other than the group that we've got. So as long as we can keep us 5 together, continue doing what we're doing, then it's great. You know, if it stopped tomorrow, I would be gutted. But I think we've already achieved pretty much what we set out to do, which was have a good time, we have a laugh, and we've wrote some, in my opinion, some pretty good songs. So, yeah.
Thank you, Fee from Slalom D, and good luck for the future.
Thanks very much for asking us. I'm still amazed that anybody ever wants to interview us, so thank you very much.
You know, if somebody can take inspiration that, you know, you haven't sang in live until you were 48 or, you know, 47, whatever age you were, then, you know, then that's a good thing. And all you can ever do in anything in life is just put yourself out there. And, you know, if you never know, you know what I mean? You never know whether somebody's going to go, brilliant. You know, that's what I want to do. Or she does art. What kind of art does she do? You know, I can't see anything about it. And then they might find you on, you know, a social media page and, you know.
I mean, that's how we got into it, both of us, isn't it? You know, I remember seeing Debbie Harry and Susie Sue and this whole, you know, I analysed it a long time afterwards, but it was this idea of women, punk's great for women. They still look like supermodels. And I remember seeing Polystyrene and going, and she was gorgeous and she was amazing, but she looked like us. She wore the clothes we were wearing, you know, and it was like, no, actually, there is something to this. There is something to it, you know. And we have a few trans women coming to our gigs now because they feel safe.
Yeah.
We have quite a high I mean, we went to we played an all day. There were 7 bands on. I was the only woman on stage at 7 bands, and it turns out that's really not unusual. And it's not because there's not any women in bands. It's bizarre, but the guy who was there went, "We've never had so many young lasses in the audience before."
Yeah.
And it was like, does it make that much of a difference? And then I was thinking, no, it would have to me. It really would have to me.
Yeah.
And there was a load of women my age, because I was up on stage going, fuck, can somebody open a window? Like, I'm going through the menopause here. It's killing us. And I'm not stick thin, and I'm not gorgeous. And I could see all these women my age sort of going, it almost felt like doing it. This sounds really twee. But it was like, yeah, you've never seen anybody like you on stage before.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, all these women getting up to dance, never seen us before, didn't have a clue, but they were like, oh, yeah, we totally get what you mean, mate, we've gone through it and all. And it was just, you've never had a chance to connect with anybody before. And it really does make a difference. It makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
And it makes you realise, yeah, they're the connections that I made. You know, I'm blown away that I'm good friends with Becky from Vice Squad.
Yeah.
Because I had her posters on my wall. You know?
Yeah.
And the fact that she supports us, sends us messages, we've met, and she's just my friend. That doesn't happen. Well, it might happen in other genres.
Yeah.
But punk feels quite, you know, that I got to be friends with Tommy, that I got to be that friends with Betty, that these people are happy to go, yeah, we'll give you some insight on it, we'll support you,
yeah,
we'll promote your band, we'll hang out with you at the bar.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I can't imagine it happening anywhere else.
I think it's something that Tommy would pick out every now and again, and he would talk about the punk community. And it's kind of like, it's similar to what my dad would always try and create, because it's all about communities, it's all about people coming together, and it's all about tolerance within inside the community, and it's all about helping each other. I did something on Friday, and I said that somebody was talking about taking over a pub. You know, and I was like, well, what you need to really do is have a group of people come together and do it he was wanting to do it as a community pub. You need a group of people with and I think particularly now at this moment in time where we are politically and socially, that the people, you know, need to come together to protect each other, because we're getting attacked left, right, and centre from various angles. And you know, you've always got to protect the vulnerable and try and keep those horrible people as far away from you as possible.
I think it's important. I'm not by no means perfect, and I'm sure with loads of people can pull us up on loads of stuff. But if I'm on stage and I'm saying, you know, we sing No Pazaran, then I go to the Black Lives Matter marches, I go to the anti-abortion marches. The people see you that you mean what you say.
Yeah.
You've got to be part of it, and you've got to be supportive of the people who are driving it, or else you're just on stage going, look at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying the right things.
Yeah.
And I kind of watched a few bands do that, and that's all right. I would never call anybody out on it. But you feel kind of let down.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear one of the bands that I love is Chumbawamba, because and everyone goes, ah! They lived in a squat.
Yeah.
And one of their gigs in Newcastle, they were basically like, if you can't afford to get in, shoplift something.
Yeah.
Like, bring us a tin of beans. And you were like, they actually, like, they live the same as us.
Yeah.
So I will listen to them. You know, what anybody else thought. And there was other bands where, you know, they were like, anti-racism, da da da, and you go to this march, and we've been attacked by the NF, and there was nobody there, that you were like, well, where the fuck are they?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't come because of, but I did. They you know, they were the rallying call where the fucking anybody is. And I don't want to be that to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually had definitely in 1980, I saw Crass, and I couldn't connect with them because I felt as if I was being preached to. You know, it's kind of like they because they all wore black. They had the banners, they had the television screen, so it was like subliminal messages. And I couldn't. I just. And I kind of like, it's only, I appreciate them now, and I can listen to them now more than I could then.
I think it was genuine, yeah. I mean, I love going to see Steve Ignorant now.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It resonates more now.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
But I'm really conscious when I'm writing lyrics.
Yeah.
Because I never want to do that either. And when we get accused of it all the time, but it's generally by people who just don't like what you're saying. But if I'm writing a lyric, it's not the media relying to you. It's like the media relying. I'll fall for it as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I haven't turned my TV on.
Yeah, it's always got to be from that point of view of, I'm singing this song about us.
Yeah.
And I'm not singing about you. You're not doing it right. Or you're not listening properly. Like, it's us. You know.